Good evening, virtual TIFF film goers, and welcome to opening night of the Teaneck International Film Festival. I'm Sandi Klein, and I will be moderating tonight's program. I'd like to begin, first of all, by welcoming again everyone and telling you that tonight's film, Black Orpheus, is sponsored by the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, the Bergen-Passaic chapter, as well as the Bergen County, New Jersey chapter of the Lynx. And we are going to begin tonight with an introduction from Paula Madison Reiner, who is president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. Welcome, Paula, and so glad you're here to talk to us tonight.
Thank you, Sandy. Good evening. What an awesome movie we just watched. What a classic. On behalf of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Bergen-Passaic chapter, we are so honored to continue our partnership with the Teaneck International Film Festival for its 15th year. The mission of NCBW is to advocate on behalf of Black women and girls in the areas of health, education, and economic empowerment. And we also support the arts and cultural awareness. So this film tonight, Black Orpheus, is in line with our mission. And we support TIFF in all it does. This evening's movie, a romantic tragedy about love. Although politics and social injustice have dominated our country for the past several months, love is the key that will open the lines of communication, respect, and empathy. We thank Jeremy Lentz and the TIFF committee for bringing this film to our attention and for planning such an awesome festival, even in this new virtual world. Thank you to the members of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Bergen-Passaic chapter, and especially to the Arts and Culture Committee for working with the TIFF committee all of this time, throughout this time. A special thanks to Sheryl Lee Ralph. I'm so excited to have her participate in the Talkback this evening, and we look forward to the Talkback that would immediately follow. And to Sandi Klein for always being the gracious moderator. And thank you to the Bergen County Lynx for partnering with us this evening as well. Again, we appreciate the partnership with TIFF. And thanks to all of you who joined in this evening for tonight's film. We hope that you will check out all of the film throughout this week, the next couple of weeks, and stay safe and healthy. Good night.
Thank you, Paula. And now I would like to introduce Tammy King, who happens to be the president of the Bergen County, New Jersey chapter of the Lynx. Hey, Tammy.
Hi, Sandy. How are you? Wow, what a great film tonight to kick off opening night. And again, I'm Tammy King. I'm the president of the Bergen County chapter of the Lynx Incorporated. And we're excited to be a part of the first virtual Teaneck Film Festival. We were actually the first community organization that supported the festival, 15 years ago. And we look forward to continuing to do so for many, many years to come. It is important for us to all support the arts, and films are a major part of the arts. And we really need this film festival this year more than ever. I would like to thank the National Coalition of 100 Black Women for co-sponsoring this film with us, and also our facet chairs, Jill Stewart and Janice Johnson, who represent our chapter on the Film Festival Committee. Congratulations to Jeremy and the Teaneck Film Festival Committee. And we look forward to the Talkback with Sheryl Lee Ralph and enjoying the rest of the film festival. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Tammy. Again, good evening, everyone. And I have to just say on a personal level, it's been really fascinating that three words seem to just keep cropping up in our lives. I never thought I would use the word virtual as much as I've been doing, and I never thought I would be Zooming. Zooming is the new normal as we slog through this pandemic. I'm very happy and excited to introduce our guest tonight, Sheryl Lee Ralph. I'd like to say a few words about you, ma'am. And I have to say, she wears many hats. And so a complete introduction would take about 90 minutes. So we're gonna give you an abbreviated version. She's an actress, she's a singer, she's an activist, she's an author, Briefly, Sheryl played Dina Jones in the Broadway hit musical Dreamgirls, for which she received a Tony nomination for Best Actress in a Musical. She was also Madame Marble in Wicked. She appeared as in a number of movies, including she won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Female in To Sleep with Anger. She was also in The Mighty Gwyn, The Distinguished Gentleman, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, Deterrence, TV's It's a Living, Moesha, Instant Mom, her book, Redefining Dina, Lessons from Life, the original Dreamgirls. So, Sheryl, I'm sorry we've run out of time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to begin, if you don't mind, by reading a couple of comments that people have felt about the film, and then I would love for you to comment on those comments, okay?
And excuse my dogs in the background, but I'm Zooming from home.
Does your dog want an introduction?
No.
Okay.
And even if she did, she's not getting one. No.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. So, couple of the comments. Such a beautiful classic film. The people, the scenery, plus the quality is exquisite. Is this the original? Thank you for this gem. So hard to see. It's rarely shown. Thank you so much for this classic, which is rarely seen. Beautiful people, scenery, cinematography, and the Brazilian culture. Carnival plus captured. It is exquisite. Really, really great. All right. I have a distinct feeling that you feel the same way about this film, don't you, Sheryl?
Oh my gosh. I absolutely love this film. In fact, I love this film so much. I mean, you can look right there. I've got this very large poster of the film. And it was one of those things that, you know, when I came to Hollywood, it must have been like my first series or something where I really made some money, and I bought that. And that's one of the originals. So I've always loved it, and I've held on to it all these years. And I just love this movie. I remember very clearly it would come on once a year. I think it was on either WOR TV or WPIX TV in New York. And for me, it was like The Wizard of Oz. You know, that like Cinderella came on like once a year. And I just sat there and I looked at these beautiful Black people. I didn't understand a word they were saying, but I just looked at them, and in my mind, it was as if they were speaking my language. And I looked at those actresses and I thought, I can do that. I'm going to do that. Oh, I love it.
The film was made and released in 1959. So when did you see it? How old were you when you first saw this film?
I'm going to say I was probably about 9 years old. And by that time, you know, it's on TV, and it's that once a year movie that's on TV. So it had probably run its course.
Because I have to confess that before the film festival, I was totally unaware of this film.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had no idea about Black Orpheus. And I did a lot of research about it in terms of its genesis. It was groundbreaking, obviously, when it first came out, you know, to see the film is entirely cast with Afro-Brazilians. And I think when I watched it for the first time, for me, what I was overcome with initially was I felt like Eurydice, you know, who was getting off that boat. I'd never been to Carnival, you know, so it was overwhelming. It was sensual. It was so sensory. The film, every sense of our five senses was affected by this film, correct?
I remember the colors. I remember the music. I remember the dancing. And I remember that little boy in the movie, because the little boy in the movie made me feel like, oh, I can really do this. And I could do this now if I knew exactly how to get into pictures. So it was just so many things for me, you know, and I'm an immigrant's child, and I spent a lot of my younger life, my whole life, going back to my mother's native land, which is Jamaica. So much of it just felt so natural, so normal to
We're
me.
talking right to you, huh?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
So at 9, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, like I said, an immigrant's child, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And if you can't do that, then you're going to marry one. Ah, that just didn't happen. But I always had an affinity for, theater, for stage, for singing.
Mhm. Having an affinity for the theater and the stage and singing, I do too, but I can't act and I can't sing. So affinity notwithstanding, talent obviously plays a role.
Thank you.
I'm curious about if we can sort of move over to the politics of this, because this film has generated a lot of controversy.
Mhm.
And in my research, I have found, I was reading about this, and if you will indulge me about some of the things, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this as well. That first of all, by the way, I don't know if people know this, but the director Marcel Camus was in real life married to the actress who played Eurydice.
He was?
Yes. Oh, I
Married
stumped
to
you.
Marquesa Dawn?
You got, yes, ma'am.
Wow. You see, that's how an unknown gets a big starring role. But she was
sleeps with the
also,
director.
she sleep with the director. But she's also so beautiful. Marquesa Dawn.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad was a professor upstate New York, Rockland County, and he said to me one day, he said, "Guess who walked into my classroom?" And I said, "Who, Daddy?" He said, "Marquesa Dawn." And I said, "Wait a minute, Daddy, you're trying to tell me that Marquesa Dawn from Black Orpheus walked into your classroom?" And he said, "Yes, she's my student." And I knew that was very special for him because he just loved Marquesa Dawn.
Was watching Black Orpheus a family affair for you?
Oh gosh, yes.
Ah, okay.
Everybody watched it.
Also, FYI, I don't know if the people in the audience are aware that she was born in the States and then moved to France.
Was she born in New York?
I don't, maybe Pittsburgh. I could be wrong about that.
I think
I'm
you're
not
right.
sure.
I think you're right. I think it is Pittsburgh, but she definitely was an East Coaster because she ended up going to school on the East Coast, college class.
So there you go. There you go. Okay, so the film was praised for its spectacular visuals, lush music, introduced the bossa nova to the world, obviously, Jobim. But, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about, it was also criticized for the exoticized vision of the country and its characters, lack of realism, and for exporting the idea that the poor Black citizens of Rio did nothing but sing and dance their cares away. And it's as if Black Orpheus had been targeted only at Brazilians in a sense. What do you have any feelings about that? Because that's, I read several comments like that.
First of all, at that time, people had no great understanding of foreign film, especially Black foreign film. So if you go back to the 50s and 60s, people have all these crazy notions about what Black people should be doing, would be doing, could be doing, instead of realizing that this is the retelling of a Greek tragedy.
Mhm.
So it is basically a Greek tragedy that has been placed in Brazil.
Mhm.
So, and the favelas, and I mean, there are parts of the favelas, if you look at certain pictures, it's colorful in a way, or at least it was more colorful back then. So, people who would say things like that, they're not looking at the picture for what it is. And it is a fantasy. It is a retelling of an old story. And of course, they made it beautiful. Of course, it was exotic. Of course, it was lush. Of course, it was sexy. If it wasn't those things, it would have been a boring movie.
Again, just for discussion purposes, I also read in my research that that the essayists had said that they argued that, quote, the film created an image of Brazil that represents nothing more than the Amazon, coffee, samba, and soccer. And Black Brazilians descended to some degree, obviously, from with slaves brought from Africa, and that there wasn't enough of that kind of connection in the film.
Oh, that's odd. For me, the connection was the fact that there were Black people in Brazil. How did they get there? They got there through slavery. So what were they saying, really? Unless I missed it. But if that film might have been made in a time now where we have many more images of Black people, you might have been able to say something like that. But that was the only one at the time. And it's a Black foreign film. And it was beautiful. And it was a hit. So let us accept it for the gorgeous, lush, wonderful film it still remains to this day.
Has it gotten enough press, do you feel?
No. Anything Black and classic has not gotten enough press. Obviously, it's not gotten enough press because you and several other people never heard of this movie.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, and I have to say, in my own defense, I mean, I was a cinephile. You know, I loved going to the movies, and I took a lot of film courses when I was at NYU. But this one just passed me right by.
For a lot of reasons. Nobody was, just like certain parts of Black history, it just passes you by because it's not taught. Just like the film is not shown.
Do you think it'll have a renaissance?
It's having one right now because it's being shown right here at the Teaneck International Film Festival.
I set you up for that one. I'd like to read some of the comments that some of our viewers have sent in. I saw this film when I was 17, 50 years ago. It did seem to have a different ending then. I recall Orpheus going down to the underground to get Eurydice. Does anyone else remember a slightly different ending?
Which ending was shown tonight?
Where he was looking for her in, where was it? The Missing Persons Bureau?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then he picks up the body, and then what happens?
I honestly don't remember.
I think they went over the cliff.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I saw this, you know, a bunch of weeks ago.
I remember them going off the cliff together.
Yes, you're right. They went off the cliff.
That's what I remember. Oh, isn't that wonderful? What was that movie about the two women that got in their car and they went off the cliff? What was it?
Oh, Thelma and Louise?
See, there you go. It was a nice Thelma and Louise.
I can't believe I pulled that one out. Somebody had written also, I remember a scene in the original where Orpheus goes underground to look for Eurydice.
See, I don't remember that, but I do remember them going off the cliff. But you know, with a lot of these movies, people, you know, the director might, at the first time, maybe Mr. Camus didn't get his version of the film, and maybe they created a version for the director's cut, and people saw different things. There's so many reasons why sometimes we see different films or different versions of films.
You know what also struck me initially watching this, talking about how the hell did they film this? It was just teeming with people. I can't imagine what it would be like to see it really on a large screen. I mean, this was a film with casts of thousands, it seemed.
I think what happened, you know, we have a carnival in Jamaica, and my son did a short film, and he shot in the crowd. And basically what you do is you just shoot in the crowd. What is really happening happens. You put your cast in it and you go for it. You also usually don't have any permits, so you've got to shoot guerrilla style by getting the shot by any means necessary.
So in that sense, is there rehearsal?
There's only probably rehearsal for the stars outside of the crowd, and then they put them in the crowd and say, go. So,
and is that back in the day, were they all considered extras? Were those women with, bowls on their heads and barefoot walking. Were they all paid?
Who knows? Maybe some of them were probably just happy to be in the movie. Maybe some of them got, a little bit of per diem or something. You never know. You just don't know.
Yeah. There was also criticism about the music, about the fact that samba, that the bossa nova was not part of the favelas,
Well,
that was also criticism.
There's so many things that people can say about what was not. If you really thought about it, Eurydice probably wasn't a Black woman in Brazil, but it makes a great story, doesn't it? Who cares if the bossa nova wasn't in the favelas? It made for a great story and an even better soundtrack. And it's a classic to this day.
There's another comment that a scene in the film when Orpheus hears Eurydice after she dies is depicting a Santeria ceremony.
I bet. That would be great. I love that. That would be exactly who they are, especially for that group of people.
There are a lot of loves going on in this chat. I love Black Orpheus, the people and the music of Brazil. It reminds me of my father as he took me and my brother to see it. Thank you for showing the film. So there's someone whose comment resonates with yours.
Oh, absolutely. If you're in your 50s and 60s, it's probably the first brilliant, beautiful, colorful, magical movie you saw with Black folks in it. And you probably were mesmerized and loved it. And they were so beautiful. There's a time in Black cinema where the images were not beautiful. The way Black people were portrayed, the idea of Black love was not raised up high as something to look for, as something to believe in. The beautiful Black woman, especially the beautiful Black woman of a complexion that is a shade or two darker than Halle Berry, to make her the beautiful one is just like, whoa, okay, you're saying a lot here, which is very wonderful. So, it made me feel good on a lot of levels.
Well, obviously also too, because of this cast of thousands, it was just one person after another person after another person. I can't imagine really.
The rainbow of Black people, and that we had not seen.
Yes. Another similar comment, seeing it again after 50 plus years, it still has that remarkable effect on me on so many levels. The first time I saw it and now so many years later leaves me humming. On some level, it's just too bad that Mr. Camus and all the other people involved in this film can't be here listening to these comments, because there's been a lot. Like I said, I assume about the Barack Obama's his mom took him to see his comment about he was at Columbia, and
he was younger than that. I think, if I remember, he was about 16 when his mother took him to see the movie. And I think, and this is just Sheryl Lee thinking about, the fact that at a point he got bored with it. He wrote, I believe that's what it was, if I remember correctly. And the fact that I thought to myself, wow, Barack at 16 was bored with beautiful Black people. And I think that was because at that time, as a teenager, he had not yet fallen in love with his Black half. He was there with the white half of his family. He was trying to find and spend time with his dad, from what I gathered from the book, and he was not in love with the Michelles of the world as he fell in love with them later. So
let me read just a quote from him for you as well as the audience. He writes, "We took a cab to the Revival Theater where the movie was playing. The film, a groundbreaker of sorts due to its mostly Black Brazilian cast, had been made in the 50s. The storyline was simple. The myth of the ill-fated lovers, Orpheus and Eurydice, set in the favelas of Rio during the Carnival. During Carnival in Technicolor splendor, set against scenic green hills, the black and brown Brazilians sang and danced and strummed guitars like carefree birds in colorful plumage. About halfway through the movie, I decided I'd seen enough and turned to my mother to see if she might be ready to go. But her face, lit by the blue glow of the screen, was set in a wistful gaze. At that moment, I felt as if I was being given a window into her heart, the unreflective heart of her youth. I suddenly realized that the depiction of the childlike blacks I was now seeing on the screen, the reverse image of Conrad's dark savages, was what my mother had carried with her to Hawaii all those years before, a reflection of the simple fantasies that had been forbidden, to white middle-class girl from Kansas, a promise of another life, warm, sensual, exotic, different. And but he left the film in the middle of the screening.
Because he wasn't ready to deal with that. Obviously, he was not ready to deal with that. And in my mind, when he turns and he looks at his mother enjoying these Black people so much, if she didn't get to enjoy Black people because her father told her she had to leave that Black man and come back to Hawaii. And that's exactly what she did. So by taking him to that, she was probably trying to expose him to his Blackness, and he was not ready at that time to accept it. In fact, I don't think that he really got into that until college, because he writes about that as well.
Yeah, and in my research, it said, for what it's worth, I think Obama is wrong about Black Orpheus. I'm sorry, I don't remember who this quote comes from. He's too tough on it. And yet for me, this passage exposed more dramatically than anything has in a very long while, the fact that critical perceptions are governed by class, by background, and by race. I saw Black Orpheus as a white man, a white liberal. Of course I did. The assumption of progressive good faith on race and the indulgence of potential condescension or even stereotyping in an old movie is something that a white liberal can afford. And as far as the arts and culture are concerned, in the prosperous West, white liberals are in the ascendant. But Barack Obama responded to the film quite differently. And he responded with impatience, with skepticism, and with pain. He saw no reason for Black men and women to be objectified. One man's opinion.
And the thing about it is I did not see that they were being objectified as much as they were being shown to him in a different side. Because remember, the mother, I think, was experiencing something different. So, that word savage, the mother was experiencing something different. So the son might have been feeling that as well. And he was impatient with those Black people. But now, mind you, we have to help and forgive him because he's only 16.
Okay, yes. I want to read you a quote from a gentleman named Christopher Michelle for Cineview, okay? Black Orpheus is a film to be drunk and luxuriated in, a sensational, rewarding feast for the eyes and ears. And I'm guessing that from the comments that I can read in the chat that are being submitted, and also how you've spoken, and I also, how can you not sort of be overwhelmed by the music and the sensuality? I mean, what one of your senses was not impacted by watching the film?
Absolutely. And it made me feel so good that man, that Black man, was going to go to the ends of the earth to find
his woman. Yeah.
But then again, it's the same thread of every good musical, every good movie. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back again. That's a hit right there.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna make them beautiful. And the music is fabulous. When the cousin came out in that tight fitting, it was like a Dupioni silk, and she was just dancing. And I said to myself, oh my God, I love her so much. Oh, I love her. although she was mean, but I did love her.
I have to just comment also on my fascination with Mira, the
The cousin,
the fiance.
the,
You
the
know,
fiance,
the
who
scorned
was-
woman. God knows I'd never want to be on that woman's bad side. Oh my
oh no.
God. That's why there probably will never be a sisterhood. Hello. Well, it was really terrific to have a conversation with you, Sheryl, about a film that had such an impact on you. And whatever your feeling is about the film, you had to have a reaction to this film, to the beauty
Oh,
of it,
absolutely.
and to think,
Absolutely.
you
And I
know,
think it's the kind of film that probably had an impact some way on a Spike Lee, the
you
way
think?
would add, how much the music is such a part of Spike's film, the way people look, the way they love themselves, the way they love others, the costumes, the color, the way that you remember the dance, the sounds of some of Spike's films. I think that it probably had an impact on him. But if everybody's ever looking for a great family film with people of color, this is absolutely a film that you should look for. I don't know if it's available on Netflix or Hulu, but the DVDs are available. They did a restoration of it. The same company that did To Sleep with Anger, they did a restoration of the film, and you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray, and it is definitely worth watching. Now, if you're planning a trip to Brazil, I don't think you're going to Brazil thinking that you're going to find the movie, because we must remember it is a movie and it was done quite a few years ago, but it is definitely worth seeing again. And I love Black Orpheus.
Oh, well, that's patently obvious. And I really appreciate your views on this and sharing how you feel about it. And not for nothing, that was the other thing too. You can't watch this movie sitting still.
You got to
The
dance.
music was, Jobim, the bossa nova, it was introduced to the world. That's right. There you go. In the confines of my own home, I could move to the music and not be embarrassed by that.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that the Lynx sponsored this. I'm so happy that the National Coalition of Black Women sponsored this. I'm so happy that the audience participated and got to see this film. It is absolutely one of my favorite films. And I think that in this virtual age, it's a wonderful film to open up the Teaneck International Film Festival.
Well, what an endorsement. Thank you very much. Before we say goodnight, I just would like to add something else, one more thought, that for the past 30 years, for those of you who don't know, Sheryl has worked to raise HIV/AIDS awareness through her DIVA Foundation, which is an acronym for Divinely Inspired, Victoriously Aware, a nonprofit that she founded after losing so many of her friends to the disease. And so you have designated December 1st to December 6th Divas Health Awareness Week.
Yes.
And on the 5th of December, you're having your main fundraising event, Divas Simply Singing. And as you can see on the screen, there's Sheryl and promoting her cause and her concert. So it's the 1st through the 6th with performances by some very impressive people.
Thank you. Everybody asks me, how do you get a lineup like that? And I say quite simply, I beg. I beg. I pick up the phone. I say, who knows who's got a contact to who. I call them up. I said, hey, it's Sheryl Lee Ralph, and we're ready for the 30th annual Diva Simply Singing. And I would love to have you perform. I get very few no's.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturday, December 5th, the film will be televised here on KTLA and live streamed as well. So if you go to the Diva Simply Singing Facebook page, you can watch it there, and feel free to make donations because it is fundraising. And if you need more of me, you can go to Audible and download an audio version of my book, Redefining Diva 2.0. And I thank everybody in advance for buying, watching, streaming, and donating.
Excellent. And we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for opening night of the Teaneck International Film Festival. Every year, the selection committee, all of our guests, panelists hit it out of the park. What a great
Love that
way.
lens.
It's really a great way to leave the pandemic behind us, even though well, not for nothing, watching a film in the privacy of your own home with pajama bottoms on and whatever, we all should go for it. So thank you, Sheryl Lee, for spending the evening with us. And thank you to everybody involved with TIFF. And hey, we'll see you virtually at the movies.
There you go.
Good night.
Bye.